That's if you want to.
Oh, okay.
They've got everything and anything you can imagine.
Gotcha. All right, good to go.
Well, we're ready to get started. I'll do our mission statement first. Merging Hearts is a nonprofit, spirit-driven, educational and cultural center offering opportunities to nurture the mind and awaken the spirit. It is a safe place for the curious to develop spirituality through education, communication, and shared experiences of meditation, lectures, seminars, workshops, and publications. I have the announcements for the rest of May. On May 24th, we have our own Kathy Jevick, who will be presenting Praying in the Church of the Wild.
Anybody who has a plan, appreciate it. And I know where to go back.
On May 31st, we are going to have a drum circle / potluck. So everybody bring a dish to share and a drum. They do have some drums here we can use a few. Every Tuesday, we have our entire Bible program. That will end in May. He's gonna take a summer break and get started back up in July. Course in Miracles is every Wednesday from 11:30 to 1. Healing Share is the second Tuesday each month, so the second Tuesday of June at 7:30. We have a new program, which that is the Dream Program, and their next meeting is 27 at 6:30. We also have a UAP group, which we're going to meet today after Daniel's presentation. We're going to head over to El Campesinos and do some lunch there and continue conversation about today's presentation, share our experiences. On May 30th, Light After Loss will be having a tag sale. They are taking donations right now. We could use some volunteers to set up that sale the night before. On June 7th, we have our wellness fair coming up. And that is from 12 noon to 6 p.m. Again, we're looking for volunteers the night before to set the room up and get ready for the vendors. Anyone else have? So, without further ado, then I will introduce Daniel Hageman, founder and director of the Organization for Research of the Unexplained, and he came all the way from Butler, Pennsylvania to visit us. Glad to have you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Dan Hageman, founder and director of the Butler Organization for Research of the Unexplained. The reason why I started the group, back when we started, it was the Butler UFO group. And our main focus was just strictly UFOs and aliens. We opened our meetings up. We have a monthly meeting, opened the meetings up to anybody that wanted to come, to the public. No membership, so you don't have an annual dues that you'd have to pay. It was free to the public, and we got a rather large following. We had to keep moving our meeting place because we kept outgrowing the spaces that we had. And each month we would meet, would talk about current UFO sightings, anybody new that would come, or a what I would call regular. If they had a sighting or an encounter that they wanted to share with the group, we would encourage them to do so. And some people had encounters or sightings, but were either afraid to talk about it or afraid that they would be ridiculed. And over a period of time, they would open up and, good people, like-minded people coming together to share their experiences. And once they saw that we were serious about what we were doing and no one was going to make fun of them, laugh at them, scoff at them, or ridicule them, they became more comfortable. And of course, they would open up. We started losing members, and we went from almost 200 regular people coming to the meeting each and every month. And of course, numbers would vary because of work schedules, vacation. We had police officers, we had doctors, we had lawyers, prominent people. I myself am a former chief of police. I'm a veteran of the United States Navy. I served aboard the USS America, CVA 66. It was a member of the uh, United States Navy's attack group. And my position on board was to work with a lot of our sensitive military equipment, so I had to have a high security clearance. And while we were out or deployed, uh, we would see things. And of course, that sparked my interest. Of course, we weren't allowed to talk about it. Threatened with a court martial, uh, thrown in the brig. And I mean, we had unidentified craft literally hovering a few feet off the bow of the ship or off the stern of the ship. We would come to a dead stop, and this thing would hover there, or they would hover there for hours. And no matter what we would do, it was almost like it would block any way we would try to move. Uh, if it were in the front of the ship and we came to a dead stop, if the captain would reverse in the blink of an eye, it's now behind us. Couldn't go forward, couldn't go backward. Uh, and it just made you open your eyes up. After I get out of the service, I've had multiple encounters in my lifetime. Earliest one being 5 years of age, my whole entire family. And it's still ongoing today. Now, of course, my mother and father, they've since passed away. Uh, I have one aunt that is still alive. My other aunts have passed away. My grandparents, they've had encounters. They've passed away. But I'm still experiencing things, not at the rate that I did when I was younger, but still experiencing things. So as a result, I started the Butler UFO group. We started to lose members, and we dropped down to about 42, 45 people from almost 200. And I thought, what the heck is going on? We still had current UFO sightings that we were reporting on. Of course, we would talk about old sightings too. If there wasn't anything going on that was current, we would talk about Roswell. We would talk about the Betty and Barney Hill incident. And started having people call me, or I'd run into people out and about, and they'd say, reason why we don't come anymore. We're tired about talking about Roswell. We're tired about talking about old UFO history. We're interested in Bigfoot. We're interested in Dogman. We're interested in cryptids. We're interested in ghosts. So I talked to a woman by the name of Michelle George. She's our co-director. And I said, Michelle, I said, what can we do to respark people's interests? And she said, well, that's a good question. And she said, I honestly don't understand why people just quit coming. And I said, well, I don't think our horizon is broad enough. I think we need to broaden our horizon and cover all the bases, the paranormal in general, cryptids, ghosts, things of the unexplained. So we rebranded the name of the group and rebranded it to the Butler Organization for Research of the Unexplained. Boru, for short. And that BORU, you cannot believe how much guff that I have had over the years. There's a company in China. Uh, I got an email demanding that I cease and desist and no longer use the name Boru. There's a vodka company called Boru, and I got a couple letters from their attorneys that I need to change the name of our group. And I thought, no, wait a minute, you know, uh, that domain name, I own it outright. And I politely wrote back to them and I said, I can change the name if you want to buy the rights to, you know, our brand name. And this went on for about 2 years, and then it slacked off. And just of late, I'm starting to get emails from this whoever these people are in China, and I just kind of scoff it, blow it off, you know. But it's been a good oh well, ever since I've been 5 years old, since I started the group back in 19 early part of 1982. Uh, and I'll remember that 1982. I'll get back into that here in a bit. Center picture of me. I had to revamp this. I don't know why, but uh, the original when I put the thumb drive in to check to make sure everything was still good, there was stuff missing. The Daniel Hageman, founder and director, Butler Organization, that was all crunched together, and I thought, what the heck's going on here? Pictures were gone, pictures were overlapped, and I have no idea. I'm not a computer expert, so I went ahead and I had to delete a lot, and I took me about 3 days to work to get that. It's not perfect, but it has to be redone. So eventually I'll redo the whole thing. But the picture in the middle, that ugly guy up there, it's all scrunched, so it's out of proportion. But that's an award that I received from Butler, Pennsylvania, for 18 years of having our annual Butler Paranormal Conference. And I was surprised Butler Eagle came and City of Butler came and they gave me an award for uh, sparking the interest and keeping the interest of UFOs and the paranormal alive. And used to have a science editor at the Butler Eagle, and I would talk to him at least 4 times a week. We would exchange information, and they up and fired the guy. And I did a little bit of digging, trying to find out why they got rid of him, and talked to the owner of the Butler Eagle. They won't even publish our paranormal conferences when we go to advertise. And I said, "What's the deal? You know, it's a public service announcement." And the guy said, "Well, I own the newspaper, and we reserve the right to publish what we want and what we don't want." And I thought, well, uh, no sense beating a dead horse. So, you know, we go to other avenues for that. But I was really surprised, and I'm proud of that award. UFOs. How many of you here believe in UFOs? How many of you here have had a sighting of an unknown? They're real. They are absolutely real. Aliens and UFOs have been here. They're going to be here. They are here, and they're going to be here long after each and every one of us are gone. Our government is aware of it. You have uh, a group that military industrial complex, as far as these big organizations that everything is money, 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 money. The technology, that's what they're after. And they want to withhold a lot of that technology from each and every one of us. How many of you are aware of the fact that you can get for all practical purposes, let's call it a generator, smaller than that projector that would power your whole home, free energy, power your whole entire home and more, and you never have to pay for electric. Think about it. It's out there, it exists. And these companies have actually assassinated and put people to their death to keep the technology and information from being released. Uh, it's frightening, it's sad, but can you just imagine if we knew what our government knows and had this technology readily available, what a better world it would be for all of us. And they want to keep it from us. UFOs are real. And how do I know that? Well, basically because of experiences that I've had in my lifetime. Any car buffs here? This is a 1955 Ford Fairlane Crown Victoria Skyliner. The car that my uncle owned, not this exact car, but one just like it. I was 5 years old, and Sundays we would get up. My mother would get us in our Sunday go to meeting clothes, all decked out, and we would go to church. And then after church, we would come home and put on our scruffy clothes, and we would load up and go to the grandparents for the day. And they owned a big farm north of Butler, and we would spend the entire day at the grandparents. On the way home this particular Sunday, my aunt and my two sisters, they were sitting in the back seat. Now, if you notice, the front portion of the roof on that is dark colored. You can't really tell here, but you can see here. It's plexiglass. You could actually sit and look up through the roof. My uncle is driving. I'm sitting in the middle, and my mother is on the passenger side. Aunt and two sisters in the back. How many of you are familiar with Butler and the surrounding area? Are you familiar with Route 38 and the Oneida Valley Dam? Coming south on Route 38, you start to drop down over a little bit of the hill, and you can see the dam off here to your left. And as we came up to where the dam portion of it was, my mother, she nudged me with her elbows and, excuse the French, she said, "Why the hell are you being so quiet?" And I guess 5 years old, I was Italian. And I said, "Well, I'm looking at the funny lights, looking up through the roof, and I'm looking at these two, it looked like something on fire. You could see one was spinning left, the other one was spinning right. There was a little bit of a space between them, but they looked like they were connected somehow." My uncle, he kind of looked up and swerved a little bit, and my mother hollered at him. And of course, my aunt and my sisters, they're trying to look up. My uncle pulled the car off across the lane and pulled off on the left side of the berm. My mom says, "Jack, what do you make of that? What do you think that is?" And he reached in, shut the lights off, thinking it might have been a reflection from the dash lights. When the car stopped, these things are pacing us. When the car stopped, these things stopped directly above us, but you could still see that spinning motion. And it looked like they were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I got goosebumps. I remember this just like it was yesterday. Your hair, did you ever take a balloon and rub it and you get that static electric? That's what your skin felt like. You could hear a very faint vroom, vroom, like a humming, pulsating noise. And my uncle thought, well, he reached in, he shut the ignition off on the car. And of course, again, these things are continually getting bigger and bigger. So ultimately, whatever it was coming down. My uncle was the type of guy that he wasn't afraid of anyone or anything. I mean, he was a big strapping, big burly guy. And he jumped in the car, started it up, put it in drive, slammed the gas pedal to the floor, and this thing's squealing and peeling out. And like this, and my mom's hollering at him, you fool, you're trying to get us killed, turn the lights on. The very second we started, boom, these things are right again, pacing the car. Now, the distance from where we first pulled over to the breastwork, I'm going to say maybe half a mile. Got toward the breastwork of the dam, and again, he crossed the lane and pulled over. And as soon as the car came to a stop, these things stopped right above us. Now, at first, they were probably the size of a saucer with, say, a dinner set. When we stopped the second time, they were now bigger than a large dinner plate. And again, we're sitting there and these things continually getting bigger, bigger, bigger. So again, he jumped in the car and we took off, and very short distance down the road, you hit a sharp hairpin turn to your left. And then it kind of does a little bit of a turn to the right, and you go into a group of trees where the canopy is real thick over top of you. Looking up, you could see the illumination. These things are now just above the tops of the trees. And where the illumination would come down through what little bit of an opening there was in that canopy, just lit up like daylight. He's probably doing 90 mile an hour or better. And as soon as we broke the canopy, it was like somebody flipped a light switch. You couldn't see them anymore. We went home. I remember my mother, she hurried up, getting us dressed in our night clothes and getting my sisters and I off to bed. Excuse me. My uncle, my mother, and my aunt, I could hear them talk, and they stayed up all night. They never went to bed. My mom said, "Jack, do you think we should call somebody? Do you think we should report this?" It was exactly 2 days on the front page of the Butler Eagle. On the bottom part of the front page, there was a little block ad that said, unidentified object, Butler County, northern Butler County residents startled by UFO. And then it went on to say, people were calling in, reporting these strange lights and strange sounds. So we weren't the only ones that saw it. I've often had people say to me, what do you think would have happened if you would have stayed there? These things were coming down. It's hard to say how far it would have gone. That was my first encounter at 5 years of age. I've had many, many, many over the years. How many of you? This is basically, this is one. Some of the stuff I had to delete. You could see them side by side, and of course, I had motion in it where you could see them moving. But that's exactly what it looked like. Years went on, and over the years, I had multiple sightings, either as a group with friends or with family. Years after my first encounter, we lived on Locust Street in Butler, and we lived above Ferguson's grocery store, and we had a big screened-in porch, second floor, and Sundays Or on the weekends, my mom, one of her things that she would do if we didn't go to the grandparents, she loved to take bubble baths. I guess that was her thing. And she'd have the fragrances and the candles, and my sisters were out with their friends doing their thing, and I was home, and my mom said, "Find something to do, and I don't want to be disturbed. I'm going to take a bubble bath." And I said, "Oh no, you don't disturb her." So we had just had a really, really bad storm, and we had the real dark gray, billowy clouds, just cloud cover, no matter where you look. I'm sitting out on the screened-in porch, and chair I was in, I had it leaned back and leaning back against the wall, and all at once is like flash, 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 like somebody took a flash on a camera, blink, 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 and it kind of startled me. And I'm looking, I couldn't see anything. What the heck was that? Probably within 12, 15 seconds, blink, 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 and I caught something going through the clouds. The light couldn't see an object, just a light. And I sat there and I watched, and all at once, here it goes again. There were three of them, and they looked kind of like a zigzag, like they were following one another. Somebody said, well, over the years, back then, they used to use these great big gigantic spotlights to advertise the opening of a new business. And somebody said, well, maybe that's what you were seeing. Maybe there was a new business that was, opening up, and they were using those, to attract people. And this went on for probably about 20 minutes. Every once in a while, you'd hear what sounded like a snap, like a electric discharge. And I started to feel very uncomfortable. And I went in and I hesitated, and I knocked on the bathroom door. And my mom says, "What do you want? I told you not to bother me." And I said, "Well, I need you to come and look at something." And she said, "I'll be out in about 15 minutes. Then I'll come and I'll look." So I went back out and I'm sitting there, and happened two or three more times. And finally, my mother come out, and she says, "What do you want me to see?" And I said, "Well, just watch up there." And nothing happened after that. So she said, "Well, what did you see?" And I told her, and she said, "Oh, you have a vivid imagination. Just find something to do." And again, I think it was 3 nights later or afternoon in the paper that several reports, police officers, state police. In Butler, we have township police, state police, city police, sheriff's department. So you got police everywhere. And there were over a half a dozen reports from police officers that reported some type of unidentified craft. The Butler 9/11 Communication Center, they had complete power failure and totally wiped out their phone system. Now their system is on a battery backup that has a battery backup that has a battery backup with generators. They had to take and completely replace every bit of that, and no explanation as to what caused it to fail. But these lights were seen hovering over Sunnyview, which was where the 9/11 Communication Center was. So something definitely happened. Uh, Years later, we had an incident over downtown Butler, reoccurred over 3 consecutive nights. The intersection of Duffy and Newcastle Road. They used to have I think it was not a boron, but they had a little gas station convenience mini store right on the corner. Excuse me. 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, township police, state police, city police, sheriff's department, state constables, they had the intersection completely blocked off. And they're looking at this object through spotter scope, rifle scope, binoculars, and it come out and it would dance around over Newcastle Road, the VA hospital, and now the complex that is Walmart and the big mall right there. and then it would move on like it was going out 422 toward Moraine State Park. And this happened over 3 consecutive nights. There were, back then, it was called Pullman Standard, rail car. Uh, they made rail cars. And on the night shift, all the employees literally quit working and come out and watched this object come up Hanson Avenue, veer to the left to go out Newcastle Road, and of course, Newcastle Road and Duffy Road was where all the police were. And again, no explanation other than unidentified aerial object. There's a high-rise apartment going up North Main Street, and I got a call. I'm across the scanner. Got a call from a woman, and she said, uh, "Can you come up? My husband and I would like to talk to you." And I said, "Well, talk to me about what?" And she said, "Well, we're seeing something. We can't explain it. Hopefully, you can get here and you'll be able to see it." Now they lived on the 4th floor. There's still a couple floors above them. They had friends in for the weekend, and they're sitting out on the patio or the balcony, and the wife went in to get coffee and tea and bring drinks out and refreshments out, and they're looking at this object. It's just hovering, and there's a smaller, identical object right behind it, almost like as if it were being towed. People from 2 floors above them, they come down, and the lady was knocking at the door, and the woman went to the door while her husband and their friends are out looking at this object. And she said, I hate to disturb you, but she said, I'm making some cookies and, can I get some flour? And the woman says, yeah, come and look at this. Come and look at this. So she took her out onto the balcony and her jaw dropped open. I go out there and just couldn't believe what the heck is that thing? So the woman that came to get the flour, she flew out the door and she went up to get her husband. And they go out onto their balcony. They can't see this thing. They both come back down to tell this woman, well, whatever it is, it's gone. My husband couldn't see it. Oh no, it's there. It's there. Went back out onto her balcony, and there they were. This thing went on up top of North Main, headed west on 422, cut back over. If you know Newcastle Road, 422, they're far apart, but they run parallel. And there's a Eaton Park restaurant up there. The whole entire restaurant staff, the manager, and every person in there eating, including state police and constable that were on their dinner break, they go outside the restaurant and they're standing there watching these things as they pass right overhead. No sound, no means of propulsion, no wings, no tail section, no windows. What else could it have been? Years progressed. 1982. April 1st of all days. No April Fool's Day joke. I lived north of Butler. I lived on a 3-acre parcel of ground. You could look across the backyard and just see the top of my landlord's roof. Out my back door, his wife trained horses, and there were horse corrals, followed by a uh, big open field. Past that were more horse corrals, and then way beyond that, and we're probably talking a distance of 3 football fields to give you perspective. There's a line of trees. Some friends of mine, they come over. Uh, my 2 daughters, they were still in diapers, still too little to leave unattended. My wife had them in the bathtub. Howard and Terry, very dear friends of mine, they come over, and we were going to play after we got the kids to bed. Play some cards, some board games, and have some snacks, and just enjoy the evening. I had a CJ5 Jeep, and I had basically rebuilt this thing. I was laid off from my job. Howard was laid off from his job, so we had a lot of free time. He came over again, April 1st. Sky just the prettiest color of blue you could imagine, not a cloud anywhere. He said, "Well, Terry," she said, "well, I'll go back and I'll sit with, you know, Patty and the girls, and you guys do whatever you want to do until we get the kids off to bed." So Howard says, "Well, hey, what about that Jeep? What all can you show me?" And I said, "Well, come on." So I put my shoes on. He put his shoes on. Went to go out off the back porch, out the kitchen door, and down 4 steps, and you're on the ground. I stepped down onto the first step, and he reached up and he grabbed me by the back of the arm. And I mean, when he grabbed me, he left a perfect handprint. And he says, "What the hell is that back there?" I looked up, and the only way I can describe it, now 3 football fields away, that's quite a distance. It's like if I were sitting here with the most powerful spotlight that I could get and shine it in your eyes. What are you going to do? You're going to be doing this, or you're going to turn your head away. And I looked, and this thing is just down below the tops of the trees. I looked at Howard and I said, "Oh," I said, I don't know, Howard." I said, "That's strange." I said, "Maybe my landlord put a new dusk to dawn lamp up." I said, "Because his wife does train horses. And I went ahead and stepped down off the porch, and he said, "That's no dusk to dawn light." I look back up, and this thing just now is just above the treetops. And of course, there's no leaves on the trees yet. So I stopped, and I'm standing there looking, and I said, That's strange." Well, either what it was when it looked like it was below treetop level coming toward us. So once it was above treetop level, that would signify that, well, that thing's moving this way. After I thought about it, I thought, well, I don't know if that thing coming up off the ground or if it was coming toward us and it just now cleared the trees to where we could see it. I walked out around the corner of the garage, and of course, the garage is just a white concrete block building. And opened up the garage door, no lights in there, so you couldn't really see anything. Get in the Jeep, I pulled the hood pins, and I get in the Jeep, and I started it up, put it in reverse to back up, and Howard says, "Look at this, come and look at this." So I backed the Jeep out, put it in neutral, and I get out and I looked, and this thing, from that real bright, brilliant, eye-shattering, whatever it was, like somebody flipped a switch, and now it's real dim. And he said, "The minute you started up your Jeep," he said, "that thing got dim." And standing there looking at it, and it looked like a milky, translucent bubble. Perfect bubble, but you could see there was something inside the bubble. And I thought, that's strange. So I reached in, I turned the Jeep off, and the very second the motor stopped, bing, this thing got real bright again. And I thought, what do you make of that? And we're standing there looking at this thing, still coming toward us. And as we're standing there looking up at a 45-degree angle, or approximately a 45-degree angle, right along the back edge here, it looked like a blanket. The only way I can describe it, a blanket of cobalt blue glitter. And as it come out the back, I'm going to say probably 60 feet, and you could see what looked like flakes falling to the ground. We watched it, and as a little bit higher looking up, it's like that whatever was coming out of it quit. These lights on the bottom, they're not blinking like navigation lights. They're pulsating erratically. And they were the strangest color. You can't say they were white. You can't say they were yellow. You can't say they were a mixture of both. You can't describe really. It was just an odd color, but they were bright. Absolutely no sound whatsoever. Now, how many of you are familiar with a pool table? The rack that you rack the balls with? If you were to take that rack and hold it at arm's length, that's how big this thing was. So whatever that thing was, it had to have been huge. I said, I'm going to go get the girls. And Howard's standing there watching, and I said, don't take your eyes off of it. Well, one of the many things I've done in my lifetime, I used to have a sideline photography business. I did wedding photography, portrait photography, uh, photography of people's pets. I had a professional grade camcorder on the dining room table, full battery, fresh magazine in it, 35 millimeter camera, full roll film in it. I had been taking, pictures. I built a castle out of cardboard for the kids and took all their stuffed animals and, kind of made a tent for them to play in earlier that day. And I was taking pictures of all of that. I ran in the house. When you come in the house, if you immediately went to the left, this is the kitchen. You go to the left, you're in the dining room. Big arched doorway would take you into the living room, excuse me, or you could go straight through another arched doorway and make a left to go back the hall to the bathrooms and the bedrooms. My TV sat right here, and of course it was on. Didn't think anything of it at the time, but the lights, they're getting dim, getting bright, like a power surge. As I ran past the TV, it was like a kaleidoscope of colors. You couldn't see any images, just an array of all different kind of colors. Now, well, that's kind of weird. And I ran back and I said, you guys got to come and look at this. You got to come and look at this. And my wife says, Dan, I can't leave the girls in the tub alone. Terry says, well, I'll come. Why I didn't grab the camcorder or the 35 millimeter camera, I kick myself back here every time I think about it. What do I grab? A pair of binoculars and a telescope. Go flying out the door. Howard's standing there. He said, man, you got to see this. It's doing all kind of crazy stuff. Threw the binoculars to Howard. And of course, he sticks the strap over his neck. And I'm standing there with this long tube telescope. And if you ever try to spot anything in a telescope, unless it's on a tripod, forget it. And then it's hard. I took and I threw it down on the ground. And I ran over and I grabbed the binoculars, not thinking, I almost took Howard's head off. Standing there looking at this thing through the binoculars, and all at once, between the point light and the backlights, perfectly halfway, you could see this craft starting to open up. Now, this thing is just hovering perfectly. There's absolutely no sound whatsoever. Those openings opened up to where they were full circles, and you could look up inside this craft, and it was the most brilliant color. It almost looked like gold foil. It's the only way I can describe it. Real brilliant looking gold color. Two very highly metallic spheres. And those spheres, they dropped down simultaneously. Bobbed up and down real slow till the openings on the right and the left closed. When they were fully closed, I'm looking at the one on the right, looking at the one on the left, and I turn back to look at the one on the right. And this is basically to give you an idea. All at once, looking at the one on the right, sparks started flying out from right around the center of it. Now, these things were bigger than a Volkswagen Beetle. if you guys are familiar with a bug, Volkswagen Beetle. Sparks are flying out of this thing. The lights on the bottom of the triangle were just absolutely going berserk. I turned to look to see what the one on the left was doing, and just that quick, one shot north, one shot south. They were gone in the blink of an eye. The lights on the bottom of that triangle, absolutely going crazy. It did a sharp zigzag to the left from a stationary position, immediately sharp zigzag back to the right, and then in the blink of an eye, shot straight up so you couldn't see it anymore. There's a small community not too far from where I lived. Probably take you 12, 15 minutes to get there, called Corn City. The residents of Corn City reported just the exact opposite of what I just told you guys. They saw the spheres come in, dancing around, kind of like chasing one another, and then come to a stationary position and start bobbing up and down real slow. The triangle appeared out of nowhere. I mean, boom, there it is. Bottom opened up. They went up inside it. As soon as the openings were closed, boom, blink of an eye, it was gone. A couple of days had gone by. Terry, she was pregnant with twins. She was expecting to have twins. I went over to Howard's. He lived in West Sunbury. I took, it's called Route 138. And if you guys are familiar, you know the route. If not, it's like they followed a snake with the worst roller coaster you can imagine. Up and down and right and left and up and down. I'm driving a CJ5 Jeep, and they are known to very easily roll over. I go over to Howard's, and he just not acting right. And I said, Howard, what'd you make of that? I don't even want to think about it. I've had nightmares ever since. I just don't want to think about it. So I said, would you mind if I use your phone? I said, I think we should report this. So I called the Butler Eagle, told the lady who I was. I said, I know this is going to sound crazy, but in the last couple of days, have you received any reports about an unidentified UFO north of Butler? She said, hold on a minute. I want to have you talk to somebody. The guy came to the phone, told me what his name was, and I said, well, my name's Dan. And he said, well, Dan, where are you at right now? I said, I'm at my friend's house in West Sunbury. He said, well, where exactly do you live? And I told him. Now, from the Butler Eagle in Butler to where I lived, good half hour. Even if you drive 80 mile an hour, it's a good half hour. He said, well, can I meet you there? And I said, well, it's going to take me a little while to get there. I'm in West Sunbury. He said, I'll meet you there. So I said, okay. And I said to Howard, I said, hey, come on. I don't want no part of it. Just leave me out of it. Don't even give the guy my name. So I left. Up and down, right and left, up and down, right and left in a CJ5. And I'll tell you what, I don't know how I kept from not rolling that thing over. I got to my driveway, and this guy's sitting there waiting for me. He had to have flown. This is 11 o'clock in the morning. When my wife came home that afternoon, 5:30, that guy is still there. He actually stayed. We invited him for dinner. Went over and over and over and over and over exactly what I explained to you. He said, oh, would you do me a favor and draw a depiction of what you saw? And I said, yeah, sure. Well, kids, crayons, coloring books. You would think I would have something readily available. I grab a brown paper bag. Back then, that's what you got when you went to the grocery store. Ripped it open, and I took a Sharpie drew a very crappy triangle and got the lights on the bottom of it. Takes me out into the backyard and he said, "That's the direction you guys saw it coming from?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Hold that up." And I'm holding that brown paper bag. It's all tattered and torn. He takes a picture of it, puts it in the Butler Eagle with a huge article. And few days that followed, Howard called me and he says, Dan, he said, "Terry's in the hospital." I said, "What do you mean she's in the hospital?" Complications. She miscarried. She lost her twins. Howard and I both experienced flu-like symptoms. I actually had to go to the eye doctor. Like I think they call it welder's flash. If you're welding and you don't have a welder's helmet on, it does to your eyes. We both experienced that, and we both showed signs of low-level radiation, including Terry. About a week went by. You come into my driveway, and you pass the house, you go past the garage, and there were these two 6-inch pieces of steel pipe that stood up about that high with a chain coming across. You get down in the woods about a mile, and there were homes down there. I used to hunt down in that area. These homes are like $500,000 in the middle of nowhere. And I thought to myself, what the heck? Here these wealthy people from Pittsburgh, you know, summer camp or hunting camp or whatever you want to call it. And part of my agreement with the landlord was nobody is allowed to get down in there, unless it's one of the owners. So I'm sitting there, and all at once, a big loud rumbling noise, and I look. We had sheer curtains on the windows, and I see this image go flying by. Now, what the hell? So I get up, put my shoes on, and boom, boom. I go out. Here are these big military troop transport, big trucks, couple jeeps. They cut the chain with a bolt cutter, and they're down in there. And here are these guys. They're dressed like, I don't know, hazmat suits with these big funky looking metal detectors, and they're walking all over the place. I started to walk down there, and a guy, he comes up, stops me like that, and he says, "You can't get down in there." I says, "No, wait a minute. You can't get down in there." And here they were down in there. Well, then I went back in the house and I called my landlord, and I thought, "Hey, you better know that what's going on here." They come and knock at the door, and here are two guys that have medals like this, all decked out in their military dress, uh, from the Air Force. And Mr. Hageman, I said, "Well, how do you know who I am? I didn't give you my name. We need to talk to you." And they drilled me for like 2 hours. You know, again, I had to explain to them everything that we had witnessed. After that, I worked at Whitco Chemical Company, and I'd work mostly afternoon and midnight. And the afternoon shift, I left to go to work, and I got to work, and my department manager kind of reminded you of Wally Cox. That's the only way I could describe him. A little skinny, his hard hat, you'd swear they'd get a hard hat to fit his head. But his name was Elton. And I walk in the office, and he's on the phone. "Your wife's on the phone." He said, "Policy unless it's an emergency. Take the call." So I took the phone. My wife says she's all upset. She said, "There's a truck at the end of the driveway, and there's 3 guys." She said, "They got the hood up, and they're all dressed alike." And she said, "They keep looking at the house. I'm scared." I said, "Well, call the state police." I said, "Babe, I can't just leave." And of course, Elton, he's standing there listening to the conversation. And I said, "Call the state police and then call me back." Well, she called the state police. They wouldn't come out. My boss says, "You got a problem at home, go take care of it. I'll stay, but you get your hind end back here ASAP." So 15, 20 minutes tops one way. I leave, I get home, there's nobody there. I said to my wife, what the heck? You're going to cost me my job. She said, they left. They left. I said, well, I'm going back to work. So I left to go back to work. I no sooner walk in the office, my boss says, your wife's on the phone. They were back. This 3 phone calls, they were back, but each time they were up my driveway further. So I called the state police and I said, look, I want somebody out there now. I'm on my way home. I got there, the state police were there with whoever these guys were, they were gone. Till this day, I have no idea. I just consider it intimidation tactics. I've had my telephone tapped. I've had, believe it or not, Black Hawk helicopters hovering over the roof of my house to where the landing gear is that far from my roof. Uh, we moved out of that house, uh, moved into a double wide trailer, lived there for 3 years. We bought a house, and 4 years after I bought the house, I inherited my parents' home. And hindsight, I wish I would have kept my home. But I thought, mortgage, no mortgage. Mortgage, no mortgage. No brainer, go with the no mortgage. I bit off more than I can chew. I now live up by the Butler Hospital. I've had Chinooks. You know what a Chinook is? Twin blade, big helicopter. I've had those hovering over my house. I've had the Blackhawks hovering over my house. I've had the neighbors say, "What the hell's going on with you? What's going on here?" I've grabbed my camera and I've gone out, and you can look up and you can see the pilot, staring down at you, and it's just intimidation tactics. Over the years, I got through doing a lot of investigation work. Excuse me. You guys have all heard of Moraine State Park, or hopefully you have. There's some type of military complex underneath Moraine State Park, and it's part of a wider facility. And I got to doing a lot of investigation work. I could care less that it's there. I just want to know why and what it is. And as a result of that, I've had a lot of, my telephone being tapped. Uh, it's all combined. We had a Eric Redgrit. He used to be a member of the group. We used to publish a monthly newsletter, and I'd get down before we published it and proofread it. And his dad owned a uh, gigantic excavation company and did a lot of work for the government. And one day, Eric called and he said, "Hey, newsletter's ready. If you're not doing nothing, come on down. We'll have lunch and you can proofread it." Well, it just so happened his dad happened to stop by, and he had the newsletter laying on the glider out on the closed-in porch. And his dad picked it up and he was reading it. And then when he got to the part about Moraine State Park, he exploded. He grabbed that thing and he ripped it up in so many pieces you couldn't really make hide nor hair of it. And I had just gotten there, and he came in and he said, "You boys in the front room now." We went in, sat down, and his dad just ripped us up one side and down the other. And he said, "Eric, you're going to go to prison, and they're going to throw away the key. And Dan, you're right behind them. Walk away from it. Forget about it." Here, it turns out his dad's company had a lot to do with the equipment that they use putting in whatever this facility is. We used to set up at the Clearview Mall twice a year that have community day, information day, where groups could get together and hand out flyers and let the public know, what you are, who you are, and what you're all about. We're set up right outside Radio Shack. And of course, a good friend of mine was the manager. Had to have somebody man the table from opening to close of business Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And of course, I was laid off, so I had a lot of free time. We're set up outside, and Parrish, friend of mine that was the manager, it was on a Saturday. We're standing there, and he keeps looking out at me, and he going like this. Oh, what the heck? So I had an appointment. I told the guy that was with me, Carl McAnell, and I said, hey, if you can cover long enough for me to go to my appointment and get back, I said, I'll cover the rest of the time. So while I was gone, he's sitting there, and just a flow of people coming up and talking to him and taking pamphlets, and he's sitting there reading a magazine. He happens to look up, and two stores down against the wall is this guy standing there in like a $5 million suit. The guy just looked like he was out of place. And Carl made eye contact with him and went back to reading the magazine. Of course, a few more people stopped up and was, telling him about an encounter or asking him questions, taking flyers and leaflets. And Carl happened to look up. Now this guy's edging his way down to the point to where Carl looks up and the guy's standing right here. Carl looks at him and he says, Carl, how are you today? And Carl says, well, who are you? I don't believe I gave you my name, because Carl was, real cocky. Where's Dan? How come Dan isn't here? Where's Dan? Carl said, how do you know our names? What, you know, who I am isn't important, but I'm going to find out who you are and what you're all about. Let me give you one of my cards. And he hands Carl a card, and it has on it uh, Defense Intelligence Agency, but only it was just the first letter of each in the guy's name and a phone number. You tell Dan I'll be back. I'll be in touch. And he left. I get back, and Carl is like I thought he was going to wet himself. Oh, I got to go to the bathroom. I got to go. And he jumps up and he takes off before I have a chance to even ask him anything. If you headed down through the mall towards Sears, down by Sears was the Army, Navy, Marine Recruiting Center. And they had a table set up, and Carl went down, and he handed this card to the Marine. He says, hey, what those letters stand for? And he looked at him, he says, Defense Intelligence Agency, why? Carl says, well, okay, thank you. And he takes the card, and he comes back to the table, and he says, I got to go. I'm going to leave. So Parrish come out, and he says, Dan, he said, what are you guys into? He said, this guy was in here asking all kind of questions about you guys and wanted to know what kind of response you've had at your table. And I said, well, what'd you tell him? He says, I told him, you're here to hand out information and talk about your group. He said, the guy told me that if you got to inquiring and anybody asked, I was just passing through town and I stopped to order a stereo and speakers for my daughter for Christmas. And that's what you're going to tell him. So Carl, he had given me the card, and I still have that card today. That Monday morning, I get up and I'm sitting drinking a cup of coffee, and the whole thing is just going through my mind. And I thought, well, here's that card. Look at it. And there's a number on here. So I called. The woman answers the phone. Her name was Betty. Told her who I was and why I was calling. And she says, well, hold on a second. And I could hear her hitting the keys on the computer. And I said, this guy come up to our table and he posed himself as a government employee, government agent. I said, that's against the law. And I said, the guy needs to be reported. And she said, well, he's who he says he is. And he's stationed up in Butler, PA. Here it turns out, whatever this is underneath Moraine State Park is where he was stationed. So it's there. Plus, I've had several other confirmations. A guy used to work at Boyer Underground Mines, or used to be Iron Mountain, or is now Iron Mountain. It's changed name over the years, but he held as high a security clearance as you could possibly hold for working down there. And those caverns, they run down to Wampum, PA. They run down to Langley, Virginia. And Lord only knows how far they go now. And holidays, we'd go to my wife's parents, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and they were good friends with this guy and his wife. He'd get a few drinks in them, and of course, loose lips, and I'd start pumping him for information, and he confirmed it. But he said, you're messing with fire. So just I know it's there. Like I said, I'd like to know exactly what it is, why it is, but the fact that I know that it's there. We can touch on dreams. How much time do I have?
We're at 11:39.
Okay.
Couple more minutes, and maybe have a little time for a question here and wait.
Okay. We all dream, and we've all had. How many of you have had a dream or dreams that you'll wake up middle of the night to go to the bathroom or get a drink of water, and you'll think, "Wow, that seems so real." Have any of you had dreams like that? I call them virtual dreams. When you have a dream like that, if it's so bizarre that you can't explain it, and I preach this wholeheartedly, keep a digital tape recorder on your nightstand or a notepad on your nightstand. And if you have one of those dreams, before you lay back down, document as much as humanly possible and do that religiously. You might do that for 6 months, 8 months, even a year. And you go back and periodically look at it and you think, that's just a bunch of gibberish. That's not so. Your subconscious is telling you something. And eventually, by you documenting that, it's like putting the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle together. And you'll get a better understanding as to what is going on. I've had dreams, and just recently I've been able to make myself comfortable enough that I can talk about them. Some I can't. I just did a presentation here a month ago, and I broke down and was in tears. Uh, but some of the dreams that I've had, uh, I'll wake up out of a dead sound sleep, and I am soaking wet. You can literally wring sweat out of my clothing. It's almost like as if I just get out of the shower with my clothes on and laid down on the bed. I dream that I'm on a metal table slab that's slightly elevated, feet tilted toward the floor. I can't move my body, but I can, move my head enough and my eyes enough that I'm looking at this wall that is a massive control panel of electronics, gauges, blinking lights, and beings standing with their back to me, and they're manipulating these controls, and they're all dressed exactly the same. And I'm screaming with every ounce of fiber and being in my body to get some kind of acknowledgement, and it's just like as if they ignore me, they can't hear me. Uh, Another dream that I dream that the blackest void that you can possibly imagine, with a white piercing light in the center that is spinning, and you're being sucked toward that. And again, I'll wake up again soaking wet from head to toe, and I'm fighting with every ounce of being to keep from being drawn into that bright light, that white light. And over the years, I've had some people say, "Why don't you allow yourself to be drawn into that light? See what happens." Greater portion of me isn't ready or doesn't want that. And those are some dreams that I've had my entire life and still have. It's frightening. Uh, the very people that you think you can talk to, is, of course, your family. And over the years, I would try to open up to my mother. My father, he didn't want to hear any part of it. He called me a moron and a peon and a nimrod, and you know. But my mother actually thought that I was crazy. Literally thought that I was crazy. And it got to the point over the years with different encounters and things that have happened to the family. She didn't think that so much toward her latter years. But very important. Again, I call them virtual dreams. We all have them. And if you do, it's so vitally important to document them. You may not like what you find out, but you definitely want to do that. Uh, we could go on and go on and go on. I haven't even scratched the surface. I'm also into investigating uh, cryptids, Dogman, Bigfoot. You all know that you've had a rash of Bigfoot sightings recently here in Ohio. As a matter of fact, next week I'm going to do an investigation out at Moraine State Park. A woman has a farm out there, and she's had all kind of crazy things happen. She won't even go outside. Her dogs won't even go out. She does dog rescues, and she just recently took in a beautiful, beautiful German Shepherd, huge dog. And the dog was out. She was taking video of it, and she said, "I want you to look at this video, and I want you to tell me what you think." She said, "This is not normal behavior for a dog of this caliber." She has a chicken coop set up. She's had chickens turn up missing. She bought a shed. She said, "You guys have man caves, so I have a she shed. Chicken coops here. The shed is just slightly past behind it, and so that the little dogs wouldn't go outside. She couldn't even pick them up and take them out. German Shepherd, it threw its head up and was alerted to something, took off like a bat out of H, and ran across the front of the chicken coop. And as it went to go around the corner of the shed, it froze. And I mean, it like right now, head dropped, tail between the legs, and it started backing up, backtracking. And when it got, I don't know, 15, 20 feet back from where it came to a dead stop, it turned and it ran. She said, she's filming it, and you could see it coming toward the deck, and then it just leaped and it went out of frame. And she's had rocks thrown. She said that she showed me video of damage to the side of her home, side that her bedroom's on. And she said 4 o'clock in the morning, and we're awakened to something that sounded like it was coming through the wall of my home. And she said elderly people that live on the adjoining property to hers, they've since passed away, and the kids moved in. And she said there's something going on over there because they put these gigantic floodlights up all around the whole perimeter of their property. So, I'm sorry.
County is that in?
It's Butler out near Moraine State Park, and I'll be going out there next week to group of us to conduct an investigation and see if we can find anything. Real quick, the Shakura gargoyle. You've heard of Mothman. We don't know if the Shakura gargoyle is something similar to the Mothman. Shakur isn't real far from where I live. It's an area called Keppel's Corners, going toward East Brady, PA. And individual, I won't mention his name, but he still uh, holds very, very high security clearances. He works in and out of the Pentagon. He owns a business. And he was on his way to Butler, coming from East Brady. And it was early in the morning, just to where it was just starting to get light enough that you could see, what's going on around you. And these triangular school signs that sit up 9 feet on a post. from the top of the sign to the ground, 9 feet. He said he started to slow his car down. He turned his high beams on because he thought there was a deer getting ready to cross the road. He didn't want to hit it or several deer. And he said he came within 12 feet when his car came to a stop, and he realized what he was looking at wasn't a deer. This thing was in a crouched position on the berm of the road right in front of this sign. When it stood up, its head was clearly 2 heads taller than the top of this sign. That sign to the top is 9 feet. This is an artist rendition of what he saw. He said this thing stood up, and of course it was facing across the road. It did not acknowledge that he was there. He said, I'm sitting there crapping myself. He said, this thing stepped out onto the road. It's right in front of my car. And he said it had a dark tan leathery hide. It had wings that protruded from the shoulder down almost to the ankles. Its knees bent the opposite direction of what ours do. He said it had 3 or 4 appendages, fingers, and he said blacker than coal claws. Same with the feet. Very, very muscular. Back of the head was pointed like an aerodynamic biker's helmet. The eyes were slanted, blacker than coal. And he said it stood there. Its ears were pointed. It stood there sniffing the air. I said, to me, that seems like it's indicating it's not familiar with its surroundings. 3 strides, it's across double lane road, stepped up onto the bank and gone into the woods. This thing has been seen out at Moraine State Park. It's been seen Michigan, Ohio, New York, Canada. I'm currently working with an individual in Canada that he is writing a book, and he wanted to know if I would compare notes with him. And that gibberish, for whatever reason, I don't understand it, but you know, I got to get in and clean this all up. It just kind of like inherited a bunch of clutter, and I don't understand, and stuff disappeared. But if you type in, do a Google search, Chicora, Chicora, gargoyle. The reason why we named it that, I've investigated over 48 people since 2011 that have eyewitness accounts of seeing this creature. Asked each and every one of them, you know, if I were to hand you those reports and you were to sit and read them, you'd think, they sat at the same table and, well, I'm going to say this. Yeah, I'll say that. And I'm going to say this. Yeah, I'll say that. The comparison is unbelievable. And yet these people do not know one another. It's absolutely amazing. But I've asked each and every one of them, do me a favor, give this creature a name. In as few words as possible, what comes to mind. Not one of them hesitated. They blurted out gargoyle. So that's why we call it the Chicora gargoyle. And it's still being seen all over the place today.
Were they protected? They're all over the
Supposedly, oh yeah. But again, we're into cryptids. I've had personal encounters. I've been 12, 15 feet away from a family of Bigfoot, female, a juvenile, and a male. That's up at Kinzu Dam. If you've ever been to Kinzu, uh, just absolutely amazing. And there's a lot of speculation that Bigfoot is an alien creature. If you're familiar with Star Wars, George Lucas, how did he know to create a character called the Wookiee? What does he know? When did he know it? Possible that Bigfoot is an alien creature. It's interdimensional. We have so many reports where a creature is being spotted walking up, crouching down in front of a tree, putting its hands up in front of its face, and dematerializing. We even actually have a video clip. We're up at Kinzu and we're walking down this trail, and way out in front of us, it literally looks like a portal opening up. And we stopped and we're filming, and you could see the perfect outline of what looks like a Bigfoot creature coming out of that, and another creature behind it that isn't a Bigfoot, but we can't determine what it is. Uh, but they are real. They exist. Are they flesh and blood? Is it a mechanical skeleton with flesh over it? Until we actually get one, and I believe we honestly have, uh, it's hard to say what they are, but they are real. They do exist. Uh, Ghosts. That's another one that we're into. This is an actual photograph. It's not a made up photograph. This is actually a real photograph. I have a friend of mine, the captain. That's a whole nother story. That involved my mother. I'm going to let you look at this for a second. And I don't know if you can see the little fellow there. She works in a hospital down in Texas, and she works the midnight shift. And they'd be in there trying to enter data into the computer, and the computer would completely shut down, and they'd look and hear all the plugs are pulled out of the wall. This is a authentic photograph. If you take a look at the clothing that the little fella has on, it's not current uh, clothing that we would wear today. And I asked her, I said, "Well, do you feel threatened or frightened by it?" And she said, "No, uh, it's very mischievous and just bizarre to say the least. There is no such thing as death. For those of you that they worry about it, don't worry about it. Every living being, every living being is energy. When the flesh and the blood, this vessel ceases to exist, that energy is transferred into a higher state of being. There is actually more than this. There is life after death. So, please don't let that bother you. McConnell's Mills State Park. I don't know if you guys are picking out what I wanted to show here. We're hiking the trails, and the reason why I snapped the photograph in the first place were the way the rays of sun were coming down through the leaves of the trees. It was absolutely breathtaking. My wife, and again, friends of mine, Howard and Terry, we were out there cooking out and just having a good day. Snapped a picture because of the way the rays of light were coming down through the trees. You can't see any rays of light. And this picture is old, it's faded, so that's why it's not that good a quality. Now can you see what I was trying to point out? I've tried to reduplicate this. I have a background in photography. I've tried to reduplicate this over 100 times, and it failed every single time. If you blow this up, you'll see a hammer or an axe. You can clearly see the wood in the handle. Doesn't match any of the bark on the trees. There are no eyes. There's really no nose to speak of. There's just a slit for the mouth. Look how bleached and white the skin is. You come down here, nothing from the waist down. I don't know if you guys can see that. When I took the picture, there was nothing there.
I mean, if you look to the right, it almost looks like there's a second person.
I've had people tell me that right in here. Now, the history of McConnell's Mills, there have been many, many, many tragedies out there. The area that we went into I guess they call it splunking. You got guys that like to rappel down off cliffs and rocks and whatnot, and they've had a lot of deaths out there. But when I was going through the slides and developing film, and I saw that, it just made the hair stand up right off the back of my neck. And I actually uh, I took the original negative, sent it to the University of California at their request. They took the picture apart pixel by pixel, put it back together pixel by pixel, did it in black and white, and they sent me a certificate and a letter stating that it's not trickery of camera or fancy work with a camera, but you're seeing it with your own eyes. And I guess that's my last slide. Like I said, I apologize. I had a lot more uh, authentic UFO pictures and uh, artist rendition. Uh, just a whole lot more to share with you, and I'm going to have to figure out what happened and redo everything. But I know you want to do some question and answers, and I could go on and on and on and on and on, but that's that's it as far as the presentation. Yes, ma'am.
What do you think? What do you think of Dr. Greer and people like Corey Goode?
There's a lot of controversy, a lot of misconception. We actually had Dr. Stephen Greer. We had him down at the Butler County Community College, and he did a full lecture. A lot of people say that the guy's fake. He's only in this for money. Uh, what you have to understand is the powers that be. Uh, there have been a lot of people end up missing or dead because of this. Even though we're in an era of disclosure, the truth is coming out. The government can't hide it anymore. You now have top military people, whistleblowers that are coming forward because they feel we have a right to know. That's another reason why I get into this and do what I do. I don't do it for money. I've had a lot of people say, oh, your annual conferences, you got 400, 500, 600 people here. You're making all kind. No, as long as I can make enough to have the conference the following year and the year after, providing the interest is there, that's all I'm interested in. I'm not interested in it for making money. There are a lot of people that are. A lot of people that claim they're this, and that. And bottom line is all they're interested in is how much money they can derive. And there's money in this, believe me. When we started, you didn't hear of, other than national UFO conferences somewhere, United States or over in Europe, and there were a couple throughout the year. You didn't hear of Bigfoot conference this or UFO conference that. There literally weren't any. And just over the years, I've had 18 conferences. This year would have been our 19th year, but where we had it, the facility was sold. We already had the money paid and the date picked for the conference for this year, but the outfit that was a church group that bought the facility, they sent our check back. And I've talked with them and talked with them till I'm blue in the face. What it amounts to, I believe a lot of church groups, when it comes to anything that has anything to do with the paranormal, they don't want any part of it. And I think that's a big thing. But we had to postpone, cancel our conference for this year, and we managed to find a new location, and we paid for the day in full, and that's going to be April 24th, 2027, and that'll be at the Highfield Community Hall in Butler. But getting back to Dr. Stephen Greer, he's legit. I mean, he gave up his medical practice, and believe it or not, uh, I've talked with him. I've had him in my home and talking one on one, and he's told me some things that he probably shouldn't have, and I won't divulge. I swore that I would not say anything, but he's got a lot of people in powerful places that are watching every move that he makes. And he's been threatened. His family has been threatened. His wife has been threatened. And you know, the powers that be, they won't hesitate. They'll knock you off in the blink of an eye just to keep this technology, you know, from being released to the public. Like I stated earlier, free energy. It's there. It exists. But people that have tried to move forward with it so the public would have it have been silenced or put to death. Think about it. It's sad that we live in times like this, but I am hopeful that in our lifetime we will have full disclosure, and I believe that it's coming faster than any of us realize. These beings, they're here, they've been here, and they're going to be here long after we're all gone. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that, there's all types of different,
Species.
yes.
There are.
There's so many different types of UFOs, cigar shape, the orb, the triangle shape, they're all different from different forms.
There are many species of aliens. Some that are here on Earth are the reptilians, the Greys, the Nordians, the Palladians. Uh, they're not all good.
Right.
Some of them are here to basically eliminate humanity. You take a look at what we've done to this planet. We are literally destroying our home, and you know some of these aliens or species of aliens, they are not going to allow it. You figure if they can take and hover a spacecraft over a nuclear base, nuclear missile silo, and destroy the targeting system, I should tell you something. They've even had. How many of you know the name Nick Pope? Unfortunately, Nick sadly has passed away. He's uh, going to be missed. But he used to be the prime minister over in the UK, and I used to talk to him on a weekly basis, and we'd get into some pretty lengthy discussions. But when you take uh, nuclear bases all over the world, and they're nuclear, those things cost millions upon millions of dollars. And when they have to go in, take a team, and take that missile out of the silo, put a fresh one in, to have within a couple of days the same thing happen over again repeatedly, that should tell you something. They're not going to allow nuclear annihilation. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that any of the UFOs are actually humans from the future coming back?
Absolutely. And not only that, what we've learned through reverse engineering, you know, you can't even begin to comprehend. Some of them of ours through what we've been able to learn through reverse engineering. Uh, our military has actively taken and have brought down many UFOs. And Roswell, that's the big one. But what people don't realize is actually 2 years before Roswell, they recovered two craft. They don't talk about that. You have Area 51, which is under the spotlight. Not so much anymore, but you have Area S2. The big one right now is Dulce, New Mexico. It's a base that extends at least 7, possibly more levels underground. And, you know, our government has made an agreement with these beings that they can actively mutilate our animals and experiment as well as human beings. You don't hear about human mutilations, but they exist. They happen and are happening right now. And it's frightening. You know, there's a lot of misconception. There's a lot of mistruth. Uh, they'll tell you one thing just to keep you from thinking this way. Uh, but it's real. It's happening. And with this disclosure, we may not like what we find out, but I think that the human population can readily accept the fact that we're not alone.